Yeah, I just wanted to share that someone this week had a medical treatment, and it was a miracle. And she was using, she was going in for a biopsy, and she told me she used, I cancel my belief in pain. God did not create pain, it's one of the two. And yeah, and she didn't feel any pain through the procedure. And then after the procedure, the nurse said, I didn't want to tell you, but that was supposed to be a really painful procedure that most people have a lot of trouble. So it's like people are just experiencing miracles just by doing, of course, miracles lessons. And I've had that before, I've shared many times, like when the needle went into my arm, and I just accepted it, and also just praying the Lord's Prayer after I had my surgery, my kidney transplant surgery, and I was able to go through the pain without any sort of painkillers. So that was a miracle which I wanted to report. And in terms of selfhood and guilt, you know, for me the Course does talk a lot about the guilt, and the selfhood is just for me the it's the interest in thoughts, and it's like something is watching all thoughts, and if there's interest in the thoughts that come up in awareness, then it starts to create a sense of identity, or a me-ness comes in, and it's like, and the me, as soon as you have a me, then the me can have problems that it can now get involved with. So already you've started this by just connecting or giving interest to the field of thoughts. Suddenly arises, oh, I am this thinkingness in this locality. And then, now that there's the start of the me-ness in a locality, now it can arise kind of like I would call it what would you call it? It's like now that there's a me, now you can start thinking stories. So now that there's a sense of connecting with thoughts, now it's like, oh, that's the first problem. As soon as the I starts, there's a sense of locality and a thinkingness which has been given interest, then it can have problems. What's going to happen tomorrow? You know, or, you know, have I put on too much weight, or whatever it is, or this feeling in the body is giving me a problem. So all of this arises. So in terms of being an instrument, but you know, one is automatically the light of the world or an instrument if the me is not there, because you have to be, because it's the disappearance of the me that allows the flow of what is there without the me. And what is there without the me is your truth. You know, the truth will set you free, and the me is I would say, in terms of the Course, is an illusion. You see, once you're in the what I call it now, you can call it different names: detached witnesser, or the perceiver, or the observer. Once you're there and you're not engaged in giving interest to the field of thoughts, or interest to the field of feelings arising and coming, actually there is no me. There isn't a me. There's just the presence. There's just what is here right now. And then if there happens to be talking, I mean, it's all inspired. It's all intuitive. So no me required, you see. So that's like being an instrument, the prayer of St. Francis. So once you realize, so for me, so that's one of the ways to disappear the me, is to go to the, one of the ways to disappear the me is to go to that which is witnessing it. The guilt, the Course talks a lot about the guilt, and the guilt, as I've shared before, is the start of, that occurs through there being a me, i.e. a field of interest in thoughts, and then also suppression of feelings. So once there's a me, hi Becky. So once there's a me, then you know, you can have a story about me, like I'm hungry, for example, or I need to get all my Christmas shopping done, whatever it is, and I haven't got enough money to buy all the Christmas shopping. So all these stories can come up, and then what can happen, rather than these thoughts being witnessed or perceived without any interest, it's like, oh, I need to do the Christmas shopping, but I haven't got enough money for it, so I'll have to do something to this. Now there's a feeling arising because of the starting of the me, and now there can be reasons to suppress feelings. Oh, I haven't got enough money, so there's a me that knows that if I have a glass of alcohol, or whatever it is, or something to suppress my feelings, if I go on the internet, whatever it is, then these feelings will go away. So hence starts up the reservoir of suppressed feelings, guilt, shame, fear, all of these things. And this makes a stronger ego self identity. So as you do the course lessons, look, if there's a detached witnessing field that watches everything without involvement, and so thoughts would just arise and pass. They won't allow the start of the me-ness can't arise, because as soon as a thought comes, it's just treated as meaningless. It's not projected with any interest or value or given any kind of projected meaning. So hence the start of the me. Also, if there needs a me for what I call addictive behavior to start. So otherwise what would have happened would be a thought would arise that would not start the arising of a me. And also the arising of me would not do behaviors to stop feelings. So let's say you were like a baby. If a feeling comes up, you don't engage it, it just goes away. There's no suppression. If a thought arises, it doesn't mean that an identity has been created. So everything is just presence, and everything is spontaneous and intuitive. So that's like being an instrument, the me-ness that can suppress and then have that reservoir of guilt. Of course, when there's a very strong me, because there's been a lot of interest given to the field of me-ness, then what I call all these suppressed behaviors can start to happen, addictive behaviors, and then there can be a lot of fantasy about, oh, this is not going right, that is not going right, and all of this is creating disconnection from the absence of me, you see, and the suppressed. Actually, we know from consciousness levels that the more the me exists, the more it's pulling you down into a very, very strong sense of identity or location. You feel very tightly bound in the body. There's huge feeling. Guilt is near the bottom of the levels of consciousness. So it's feeling like I deserve. Guilt symbolically means, oh, hi. Quickly. Guilt symbolically means I deserve punishment. That's what guilt means. So it's like there's a me. Now because there's been so much suppressed behavior and so much fantasy and engagement with thoughts, all that engagement with thoughts is creating a very strong identity, which is then using addictive behavior to suppress. Otherwise, if you just witnessed feelings, they would just arise and go. And that would be the end of them. It wouldn't stop, it would be, yeah.
It sounds awesome, but what I experience is that they don't really go right away. And
No.
that's kind of, it happens that I sit with these feelings and they're just there. And I'm like, okay, and they're really not nice,
Yeah.
To experience, they're like go around and they like call me and I'm like, okay, whatever. So it's awesome what you say, but it's would be lovely to actually to be able to have that experience.
Okay. Please do, anybody, when I'm recording, if you want me to put the camera off, just say so. Okay, so are you feeling any feelings right now? Anything uncomfortable? Is there any negative sensation?
Slight.
Yeah, okay. So there's a slight sensation. Yeah. Is there a problem with this sensation? Is it?
It translates as a strangeness. Yeah, that I'm a stranger here. You know.
You feel like a stranger.
I feel like a stranger. Yeah.
Welcome everyone who came. Yeah. Okay, you're a stranger here. Okay. Okay. So is it like okay? So there's a feeling like you're a stranger.
It's very. Normally I wouldn't pay attention to it, but since you asked, yes.
Yeah. Let's see what the problem is. So there's a feeling. It looks like it's here, isn't it?
More or less.
There's a feeling here that I'm a stranger here. Okay. And this is creating some discomfort, isn't it? Or isn't it? If it's not a problem, just say. I mean,
no, it's not a problem, but it's there. You know, it's not a problem because I'm used to it.
Yeah.
Okay. But if we talk, then I would not be honest if I said that it's not here. You know, it is here.
Okay.
I just learned to deal with it, or you know.
Okay. So you're having to deal. So So from your languaging, there is an I. Yeah. There's an I that is having to deal with a feeling down here.
Right.
So it's almost like the I is doing some kind of work.
Yeah.
Because there's a problem.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, because this relates to what you said in the beginning. When there's feelings, there's an I that doesn't want to feel them.
Right.
That has a problem with feeling them. Yeah, I relate. I can understand that. Okay, so now there's an I having to deal with an uncomfortable feeling. Okay, so this I, yes. Let's try and look at the I. Okay, so can you introduce this I to me, or what is the I some thoughts, or is the I a location or a sense, or?
There is a location, and it's kind of above me at the back.
Okay, so is that so? Okay. So
I could say it's a frightened energy field just behind me.
Okay, there's a frightened energy, and this frightened energy feeling is trying to deal with this energy. Is that correct?
I think so. I've never seen it before, but yeah,
okay.
it kind of shows up.
Okay, so there's energies here, and there's energies around the head, but who is the one who's having a problem with these energies? Is it your thinking? There's a thought subliminally in the background. This is a problem for me. I mean,
that's.
Or is it that because?
I'd say that it's between those two energies. If I, okay.
What is your I? I mean, for something to have a problem with something, what is the thing that has the problem with something? Because if there isn't nothing there, then there cannot be a problem. So there has to be a central entity.
So it looks like these two energies, they have problems between
each other.
Okay. And there's an observer in the middle.
There's an observer in the middle of these two energies, like.
Yeah. Who forgets? I don't know. Who gets involved in this conflict?
So there's an observer in the middle of two energies which gets involved in it. Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, let's say yes. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so this is like you see all of this. Okay, right. So for example, we know from the Course in Miracles, you see, it's like, okay, so if there's an object in this room, yeah. Now, this object doesn't create any problem for the observer if it's meaningless. So let's say that I'm in this room, and there's different people in this room, and let's say, for example, somebody doesn't like red scarves. So let's say someone here doesn't like red scarves. Okay, so suddenly it's like for somebody not to like a red scarf, this has to be meaningful. Then it's like there is an I that gets hooked into awareness of red scarf and then feels uncomfortable, because now there's an object that is being observed which isn't being like a red flag. It's like a red flag. I don't know where that came from.
You know what? it never occurred to me before that this feeling can be meaningless.
Yes.
Never ever. Now it's very clear that it can be meaningless.
Yes, it can be.
But it never occurred before, and if it's meaningless, then indeed it will go, and I can see it, you know. But then the meaning keeps it. Now I can see that meaning.
Okay,
keeps
that's
it.
correct. So the meaning is keeping.
Yeah.
Is when there's something meaningful, the I comes into existence.
Right.
Okay. So, like, for example, you might bliss out in the middle of a park. There seems to be no sense of I. There's a sense of unity and oneness and lovingness. There is no thought. There's just like connection and oneness and unity without the field of I. It's like more like an expansive awareness of presence. Yeah. But then suddenly, if an object within the consciousness of the ego is placed which has meaning, then suddenly an I exists, and the I gets disturbed by, why is this red flag in my park? And I feel uncomfortable because this red flag is here. But to another person, the red flag didn't stop the continuous unity, presence and oneness that was there. They didn't even notice it, red flag. But for somebody, it can be the red flag is like this, oh, because I have a red flag, I'm now uncomfortable. Yes? So the projected meaning or the interest or the value projected onto a thing can create an I that then is in discomfort to an object which has meaning. Okay? So that's fine, but first there has to be an object, there has to be a sense of I-ness that projects meaning onto something, and this whole dualistic, I would say, restricted, limited form of consciousness can exist. Yeah. So okay. So now, there is an I now that is feeling uncomfortable by this?
No.
No. Okay.
I'm kind of puzzled, to be honest, because it's you just deploy big constructs. Because I believed, you know, so much in that it has to be different.
Yes.
It's been always there, and I used to use food.
Yes.
I still use food
Yes.
on occasion, and it works perfectly, you know, because it just
stops it.
Yeah, it just stops it, and wow, thank you.
Okay. Yeah. You see, it's one of the things I share quite often about. You see, nothing can trouble you that has no meaning. In fact, anything that has no meaning is more or less not registered in consciousness. I mean, you know, like if in 3 weeks' time I asked what colour my shirt was, I mean, a lot of you won't remember because it's like it's meaningless. But you might remember because I wear the same shirt regularly. But what's meaningless doesn't get registered in consciousness. What is enlightenment? Enlightenment would be like, like the Buddha said, when all your attachments are gone, you're free of all suffering in this world, old age, suffering, death, all the problems. So if all the thoughts hence the level, the Course in Miracles is at that level. Once all your thoughts are made meaningless, every single thought in your ego is made meaningless, then nothing would stop. You know, there would be no sense of selfhood or self-centeredness which could stop the presence and the unity and the unfolding of creation. It'd just be an automatic unfolding of creation, and it would be spontaneous and intuitive. But there'd be no tracking. There'd be no sense of I that is giving energy to this, or thinking about the future, or thinking about whatever. None of that exists. So there's no I that is in existence. Is there a quick way to get out of a sense of I-ness? Well, you see, the quickest way that I'm using to get out of I-ness is what Muji does, which is called self-inquiry. Yeah. So when anything, you see, there is just a state of pure presence and witnessing, and words just happen. There's no one to make the words; they just come out somewhere. So, for a I to exist, interest has to be given to something. Okay. So interest is usually either given, and yours. Thank you for your question. to either a thought or a thinkingness that gets troubled by something, or some kind of, usually, or a story, thoughts are just stories, or some kind of sensation, or feeling, or energy that is arising. Okay,
yeah.
So...
What you are saying actually adjusts everything. All my problems and everything, all the investments, in the way I look, or the way things have to be really.
Yes.
Now I can see it's like, what is it, So thank you for such a neat explanation, really simple.
It's very simple. And the question is just, if suddenly you're in a thought, what's observing the thought? Okay, so that which observes the thought, the pure observer has no problems because it's not invested, this has no interest, it gives no meaning to it. So the pure observer, so it means there's interest and there's sort of a mixing in with the thought, or energy is allowed to go to that thought. When you don't allow any energy to go to the thought, then, I just asked, so you answer your question, what's observing this that has a problem? If the observer has a problem, you still need to do more inquiry, because it's still like giving it meaning, hooking in. So there is an observer that doesn't hook in, good. An observer that doesn't hook in, which is free of it. So that you do with thoughts. And if you're thinking a story, what's observing the story? Does that observer have a problem? If it has a problem, I don't use problem, but I intuitively know that the pure observer has no problems. Being in the present moment, just being here now, has no problems. No problems exist here. So you have to think, it has to be something more in the future, or thinking, or giving energy, and then there's a me having problems. So that's the one. Or the other thing could be, for me, sensations in the body. Because I was an addict, like a food addict, and used other addictions, every time something wasn't going my way, just projected in the world, I would just use something like food to eat so that I don't have to feel. So, let me deconstruct that. There's an I. I've allowed energy to give creation of an I, which now gets frustrated and then does behaviors to suppress things. Yeah. So, if there's a feeling, what is observing the feeling? And is the observer of the feeling having a problem with the feeling? And if you get to the real observer, there is no... Actually, feelings start... If you see, when you give... See, when you give meaning or interest to anything in your body, or anything, then it's like there's a me. It actually gets worse. Because...
Yeah, I was experiencing that on the way up here on the train, and I was full of me, and loneliness and jealousy, and I was doing the St. Francis of Assisi prayer.
Yes.
And then I met a friend, and we were going around the charity shop before the meeting, and I was looking in the charity shop trying to take my mind off it, and I couldn't get rid of this feeling in me, and then I went into the meeting.
Yes.
And I became the observer because I thought I'm going to listen.
Yes.
And I felt myself being taken away.
Yeah.
And it was like someone turned the valve and out it came. And I wasn't in me anymore, and that went.
Yes.
It went. So I came out of self.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's coming out of self and teaching yourself to do it. You have to keep teaching yourself to do it and keep teaching yourself to do it. And when you're with like-minded beings, their little beams are going in there, and you become the observer.
Yes.
I don't know. It just it gets manifests more when people are around. When you're with like-minded people, and I felt really light when I came out of the meeting. It had gone.
Yes.
It's still there. Yeah, it's ego. Ego's coming out again, So ego's going, what are you doing?
Well, the things are, the things are permanent. It's the battle between my ego and my real self.
Yeah.
And there's all common when somebody asks, what happened if that come back? Of course it's coming back.
Yeah.
Of course it will come back.
Yeah.
Because my ego is with me 24/7.
Big fight.
And just try to locate myself in that part of me, which is not my ego, which is not my body, which is not my thoughts, which is not my feelings.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like the observer.
Yeah.
But of course the job of my ego is to bring me back constantly to make me believe that I'm my body and my feelings. And
That's right.
it's one passage of emoji actually. We just say, so who are you? So I'm Miguel. No, I'm not Miguel. That's my name.
Yeah.
my name was Sabbir or
Yeah. But sometimes I
Carol would be the same, you know, so it's not my body either, because if I cut my hand off, you know,
Yeah.
it would be still feeling the same.
It's
And it's not my feeling either, because I can feel okay now and not feeling the same later, you know, and Sabbir says it's one permanent stuff in there, which is...
Yeah, and sometimes when I really do come out of myself and I'm observing, I feel
Yeah.
really great, but other times I feel like Bambi. You
Yeah.
know, oh, what am I doing? What am I doing? And it's just learning to let go, just let it go. Invite God in and let it go. You know, it's a battle sometimes, you know, but it's early days and I'm learning. But I'm getting more, you know, in that thinking, come out of the self, and that's why I pray a lot. I say a lot of the words
Yes.
of God when I'm in that space of self, you know, thinking about self. Then I start saying the words of God, and I say, please God, please God, thy will be done, not mine.
It's it's very, very powerful. If there's thy will be done, not mine, then you don't need an ego.
Yeah.
You know, the ego wants to think about the future, wants to tell God that everything should be different right now. God's got it wrong.
Yeah.
So if it's like thy will be done, then you might as well not think again ever, because you're no longer. It's like saying, well, I know God, you don't need any help from me, so I'm going to disappear off now.
Yeah.
In that way, and actually something then will use you,
Yeah.
and you'll be a lot happier without the you.
Yeah. Getting away from you.
Yeah.
So, again, thank you, and thank everybody here, because for me it's really big thing to realize what's going on, because I've experienced last week lots of problems, and
Yes.
which I took as they're real.
Oh yes.
And obviously there was a part of me knowing that everything is okay, but there was so much disturbance, and
Yes.
and I can see now how crazy is all of that involvement. It doesn't mean anything and stuff, but since without educating or any kind of education, because I haven't noticed or realized before that. Oh, okay. And when I came here, I said as well that I have this I experience this downward spirals, and then everything is okay again, but then I go down again. So this is the moment when I begin to give a meaning to things.
Yes, right. Yeah.
And then if I begin, then there's the first meaning, then there's another meaning, and then so on, and then I have to crash and say, okay, whatever. And then when I come back to myself, and I don't even know, I never knew how it happens, that suddenly I wake up, or that there's a moment of change, and I'm like, oh, cool, everything is good. So I'm really, really amazed what's going on today, because I never had this clarity about giving it the meaning.
Yes.
So now I'm going to be more aware. I'm going to put it on my wall. I will, because I do that. To remember it more often, because it's and I read something what Jesus said, that you're gonna have to question all the meaning of this word, and I was thinking, yeah, that sounds really, really cool, but I did not really know what does it mean.
Yes.
Until now, and this morning I felt so bad that I didn't want to come, and I knew that it's not me. And I knew that, oh my God, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna stay home and do what? And wait this one out or whatever? No. So really, this is a big moment for me.
That's good to know, that's beautiful to know, and I really appreciate what you said about, putting a banner in there just to remind you.
Yeah, everywhere. I put the sticky notes.
No, because
and
it's about that, it's
everything.
being in contact with that part.
Yes.
It's being in contact, and I wish I could be in contact with the perceiver 24/7, but it's just my ego constantly taking me out of it, so I can have a really spiritual moment in here and just come down and having an argument with somebody on the lift, and I wish it wouldn't happen, but at least it's good to know that you have a place where to go,
It's like a
It's
heart.
good to know that it's not a reality,
Yeah. It's like
What
a
do you mean
heart.
you're having a place to go? Sorry.
But
What did you mean by having a place to go?
if I can know that what happened in most of the time that my ego dictates
Uh-huh.
the experiences I have, but if I know I can go to my perceiver, if I can know I can go to my real one and coming out of my ego, at least I know that that's the idea, you know. The problem is when I don't know, and I think most of the people around the world doesn't, you know. The way that with the society of, I'm not blaming that on society, but we are not prepared for that, you know. They teach you to go to school to become somebody and to be successful, and you know, and probably you're learning that everything that happens to you is everybody else's fault, and you know, that's the way we make our life. But when at least you have, you know, a knowledge that there is no that reality, and you can go to a place like a perceiver and to say, right, well, or know what my ego is and what it's not, you know, what I really am or not, that is, you know.
Yes, no, that is, you know, that's another lesson from Course. I'm not a victim of the world I see, which is another Course in Miracles lesson.
Yeah.
And, you know, it talks about, you know, letting go of the projected meaning ascribed to form. You know, thought is form, yeah. Feelings are also form. You know, location is form. So we're letting go of form, or the meaning that has been ascribed to form, so that we can get to the formless, or the limitless, or that in which there is no self which limits the limitless. So the victimhood is one of the key things. There's an I. Once an I exists, a sense of I-ness, the thoughts are given interest and meaning, then of course the I can be a victim of everything. You know, the I is always a victim of everything because it doesn't want things the way it is. If you allowed things to be the way they are all the time, then you wouldn't have an I, because they'd just be pure presence. And then what would happen would be there'd be an intuitive, spontaneous happening or allowing of just what is. Well, that's being the instrument. So something will say something, something will move a certain way, but there is no I. There is no past, there is no future, there is only what is happening now. So no need for an I at all. So that no interest is given. So it's like, I like the thing of, like, you know, when you see babies on the tube, I see these babies on the tube, and their eyes are just like fully present. You know, there is no thinking, like what's going to happen tomorrow, or how do I pay the shopping or anything. You can see that they're fully present. You know, there hasn't been time for an identity to get offended by the world being different. That hasn't been allowed enough time. So if they want to say something like gaga, they just do it. You know, or if they look at something, you know, that there is no fear or there is no problem with anything. And if a feeling arises, they just feel it and let it go. They don't say, like, can I have like a pint of beer, please, because I don't want to feel this feeling. It just arises and it passes. So it's just, nothing is ascribed meaning. In the moment, it's processed and released. You need an identity to start using alcohol and food and everything, and then being angry at God, you know, being a victim of God for not directing the whole world to be a certain way. So then, you know, the whole problem, that the self becomes stronger and bigger, it seems, because more interest and meaning, and the startup of an identity has occurred. You know, as soon as the I thought is engaged with, stories, the future, the past, problems, all of that can exist. So yeah, that's so thank you. And the psychopath, it's a very, very good question actually, and there's been brilliant answers. So this is quite correct. The psychopath can do anything without any guilt whatsoever, and has self-gratification without any remorse or any spiritual conscience. They have no spiritual conscience, or they have no spiritual consciousness, and they are now at the place of zero spiritual conscience. And so the world is a playground with zero guilt. Most people have some guilt and some conscience, and they carry on doing it, but they feel guilty. The psychopath is at the level where, oh, if I want to kill someone, kill a few people, you know, get my axe out and chop a few heads off today. It's like, oh, that's not a problem. That was quite fun. Tomorrow I might chop a few more heads off. So when you, as you do spiritual work, you're allowing the guilt that you feel to be released, and you're letting go of the meaning of thoughts, which are usually control-based and fear-based thoughts. The center of the ego is fear-based thinking. and suppression of guilt. The psychopath is like, let go of all of that, and is so cut off from spiritual consciousness, God consciousness, that they're right at the other spectrum, so they're sort of demonic. So as you do the spiritual work, you're allowing the feelings to come up without suppression, and without trying to control them or give them any projected meaning. Plus, you're letting go of the meaning of all thoughts. So now you're connecting to God consciousness. Now, God consciousness, eventually, like in the lower levels, first you're doing your spiritual work, then you feel guilty most of the time. Do more spiritual work on your meaning, on the meaning of thoughts and the feelings, allow them to come and process through. Then you might be feeling fearful most of the time. You do a bit more spiritual work, then pride, a bit more spiritual work. Now you're starting to feel quite peaceful and accepting. So now that you're feeling peaceful and accepting because you've given so many thoughts more meaning, you're getting more present, you're feeling more alive, and you're getting the sense of being tightly in a body that's seeing all these other people who are a bit threatening starting to diminish. More a state of presence and expansiveness and trust and joy, and people are really nice kind of thing going on. But there's still a sense of a me being, there's a me that wants to be nice to others. That's the intuitive thing. You're also developing, as you do more spiritual work, the ego is dissipating and you're starting to connect to something that I call an intuitive spontaneity, which is not arising from the field of the ego. Something starts to, as the ego loses its ground of sense of identity, needing to control the future, be upset and use, as that starts to diminish, a sense of spiritual intuition and trust and a natural beingness in the present moment of what just says things and does things and waves its hand or whatever, starts to rise, which is not of the field of the ego. And this starts to now dominate. But still there's a sense of an I that is being nice to other people at this level of spiritual work. Then you let go of the sense of the I-ness. So then what happens at the highest levels, which is the opposite spectrum from the, I forgot what they call them. What is it? Psychopaths, yeah, psychopaths. So the opposite end of the spectrum is just like God consciousness, and there's not even a sense of me and you. Now there's an expansiveness, and that God consciousness, shall we call it, we're using words now to describe no sense of I, just the presence, intuition, and allowing the unfolding of that presence, which would have the maturity of full God consciousness, or in 12 steps wisdom, and it acts through that. You know, the sixth sense, so they call it the sixth sense, is using information or using God consciousness, which is not of the ego origin. So it just says things and does things. Like in the groups I go to, you know, people will, you know, just say something which will have a tremendous meaning for another person. They didn't know that they said it, you see. So they're now being used. And that force is very, very loving, for that, because it acts in accordance with the unity and oneness of love. The psychopath is at the other end of the spectrum.
So it's like the 12-step, you're describing the 12-step program.
Yes.
Come in as psychopaths and end up
Yeah.
being spiritual beings.
Because the thing is with psychopaths,
Yeah.
you said they have no guilt.
Yes.
And then as we go through the rest of the spectrum, we get guilt, and there's duality.
Yes.
But when in enlightenment, there's no guilt.
No, there's
And
no
there's no
guilt.
duality either.
No.
The same as a psychopath, there's no guilt and no duality. It's
That's
just
right.
that the psychopath,
But there's a strong
is-
sense of I.
yeah, the psychopath is, say, 100% ego,
Yes.
whereas enlightenment is 100% enlightenment.
Yes.
So,
Love.
yeah, it's like similar but a different source.
You're quite right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it's an opposite.
No, well, we say only love is real. Only love is real, and then there is also the world of illusions and duality. Okay, so it's a good question. They're not. You see, the word opposites creates duality. You see, as soon as you start perceiving right and wrong, this is one of the great things with the ego: the judgment of right and wrong, and good and bad. So as soon as you have that, you start a lot of thinking. And the Course says that only love is real, and we're letting go of illusions. Through forgiveness, we release illusions to get to the truth of who we really are, which is not dualistic. So when I had my white light spiritual experience, when Mooji asked me, you know, what are you beyond these thoughts, and had the white light spiritual experience. There was no me, and there was no you, there was no world. It was just infinite light, love, and power. And like the Course said, you know, on an unmanageable scale to anything you had experienced in this earthly existence. So that's like, for me, that is the truth. There is a sort, I mean, there's pure love and light and power and bliss that's never ending, without end, without any dualistic I. And then suddenly the birth of the I, there's an awareness, there's a field of just bliss and love, right? Not even a sense of I, there's just bliss and love, and tears are coming down the cheeks, and everything is beheld beautiful, and walking happens, and one goes about things. So that's the existence in the world, but hardly any identity at all. Then you can start thinking a lot. But I'd say these are now, we're going into the fields of illusion, you see. The more you think, you're more into the world of illusions and separation, and a me and a you, and a frustration that there's a story of an identity and the world is not going according to plan. All of that starts to exist. But I would say that's not an opposite. That's like we're going more into the world of illusion, which is not the truth of the universe. And then, you know, the
self-will run riot.
Self-will. And an extreme interest in thoughts, identity, and then the suppression of feelings can lead to the psychopath, you know, which is the complete cut-off from the light. And then you can be at the field of what I call illusion, 100% illusion, where it's like there's just a me that is separate from other things and can play God and do horrible things for gratification without any conscience. So it's like you're totally cut off from the truth. You're now being the, I don't like to use the word, no, not anti-truth, but you're being the opposite of what is real. In a dream, you can now play a part, which is not in reality truth. In the dream world, you can play a part, or in the illusory world, you can play a part of what it would be like to be totally cut off from the truth of what you are. And so you could say, I mean, for me, it's like, if the truth is oneness beyond form and unity and love and light, then we can play different games of illusions. For me, this physical world, we get the blessing of having a physical body, which means that people at different levels of consciousness can all exist together. You can have the saint, and you can have the psychopath living in the same block of flats. You know. Hopefully they don't meet too often. But you know, and that's the great thing, because then you can have the contrast. You see, because if we're all, well, if we all didn't have an ego, then none of this would be here. There'd just be infinite light and love. And you need some kind of hooking into this thing for a vague meanness, but a very expanded me to exist in here that is being present and one. And then the more you hook into the thoughts, you're going down into, you're being more cut off from the absolute truth. So I think, yeah.
So how is the body is a blessing? How is that? Because I don't understand the purpose of the thing, you know.
Well, I mean, I'll give you my take on it, which is that this world is like a school. And
so I understand what is the purpose of.
What is the purpose of, you know? Okay, well, why would we need any school? That's another question coming.
Well, you see, as soon as there's hooking into me,
right,
and then there is a building up of identity, and then there's the purchasing of identity, and then and to the extent that there's the purchasing of identity, a separate me exists, which is not in unity, is not in oneness, or is not connected to all. So then, being hooked into bodies with other bodies then allows you to have lessons to see whether you still want to hold on to these hooks that disconnect you from your more expanded self, or of unity and oneness. So it's just like, you know, yeah.
So, because that's what I'm tripping on, you know, of that, because if God really is everything and it's infinite love and light and there's this ecstatic existence,
yes.
How can it be that we even, or how can it be that there's a step out you know, and I know the idea of the little thought, you know, which was thought for a moment that it's separate, but I don't understand that. If there's in everything, and you know, this light, how can it be anything else? And Course says that it isn't.
That's right.
So,
But you see, you're trying to understand it being
I'm trying to
separate.
understand
You're
it,
trying to
yeah.
understand. You are now hooked into your thoughts and have given
Right.
meaning, and you're saying you're now trying to intellectualize it. Like, how is there a me? And I want an explanation of how there's a me, and this doesn't make sense.
yeah.
You see, so for you to understand it, we need to let go of the me. Or you can go to spiritual groups, or otherwise life will just present you with things which hook your me. You see, like for example, you might not like noisy neighbours. You see, because you can get hooked in. The me gets hooked into noisy neighbours. So you just keep meeting. You need a world now where you
Right.
can have some noisy neighbours, so that you can decide: am I going to let this hook go from me, or I'm going to keep this hook in, where noisy neighbours are going to hurt me all the time? You see. So for everyone who's got their ego, it's like the world has different situations in it, which will gives the opportunity. You see, the unity is not in time. Time doesn't exist. Location doesn't exist. Duality doesn't exist. So this world, as soon as you have an ego that tracks time and location and differences between people, and can get irritated by things not being the way one wants to be, then it's like the world, or in my view, the world will automatically eventually rub into those things which take you out of your more expanded awareness. And then you go, you know, in terms of the Course, do I forgive this person? After you've forgiven them, they're no longer a problem, or sometimes they disappear. That's been my experience.
That's what happened to me when I did the resentment prayer for my
Yes.
neighbours.
Yes.
And it's like I don't even see them anymore.
Yes.
It's, you know, and that is a miracle because I was having problems with them and they're gone.
Yes.
God's put the veil over it.
So yeah, so that's for me. That's exactly it. You see, so you can let go. You, if you're in a state of pure bliss and oneness all the time, and nothing, you can go throughout your day and stay in the perceiver or just expanded awareness and bliss. You're doing really, really well. Yeah, you're doing well.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Well,
Please give me a call.
because it just means that nothing hooked you out throughout the whole day. You know, okay,
You have to be in a really, really high conscious level.
Yeah.
that's a really high state.
Very high state.
You know, if every 5 seconds something is like disturbing you, you know, if every 5 seconds that the noise is too loud here, there's too much traffic outside, you know, whatever it is, you know, I don't like the colour of the eye.
When I begin my journey, because it takes me about an hour and a half to get up here, I always ask and I just say, please keep my path clear.
Yes,
And then I just go on my journey
yeah,
and don't think about it.
That's
And
beautiful.
it does, it does. Normally, the lights are green and the trains connect and the, you know,
yes,
the door
yeah.
opens, you know.
There's like two meanings to that. Please keep my path there, like physically, but also like
Yeah.
mentally and
Yeah,
spiritually.
yeah, sure,
like,
sure.
yeah.
yes,
Good people. And then what I do when it's really, really packed, because I don't like it when it's too busy, but it is this time of year, I bless everyone there and say, let them have the most wonderful day. You know, and then that gets me out of my thinking, I'm going to suffocate on the tube. I'm just thinking, have a wonderful day and really enjoy your day and really, God bless you all, you know. And that seems to smooth my path as well.
yes. And that's beautiful. And I don't recommend anyone here become a psychopath. Because, yeah,
No, just to finish on the psychopath thing,
yeah,
I saw an interview, probably maybe this in both of you saw, but it was an interview with a psychopath who has committed atrocious crimes, like really atrocious crimes. And this doctor had this test, and to find out where he was on the psychopath scale. But what was interesting was that the ordinary people who were tested were quite high up on the psychopath test. The psychopath was way up. I think above 25 you're a psychopath, but he was well into the 30s. But a lot of the seemingly nice people were 20 and beyond. So I'm wondering, is that their ego?
Yeah.
That would be their ego that would make it high?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So if you don't have any ego, then you wouldn't have
You
any score. Yeah.
You'd be at the other end of the spectrum.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
To be neutral.
Yeah, because with the no ego, you're connected to the field of unity and
Yeah,
love and
yeah.
intuitive expression of the truth.
Yeah, but I found it interesting that the psychopath was delighted
Yeah.
that he was
It
high.
was bizarre. It was really bizarre.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He was delighted to be a psychopath.
Yeah.
Like, if I was told that I was like on the scale, I would be like, oh man, this is awful. But he was really happy.
Yeah.
You saw the program as well.
For some reason, I believe that that is not the truth. I
Oh, I see. Yeah.
I believe that some part of him, unconsciously probably, is really suffering, and it's a lot of pain.
Yeah, you would think so.
And the
Yeah,
ego
yeah.
is so big and so covering that I don't believe it's in a state of love.
Yeah. But
To
even
say
in-
I'm
in,
okay and I love doing this.
Yeah.
Denial is maybe to the maximum exponents. You know?
Well, not knowing anything else, you know, not remembering anything else.
Yeah,
Pardon?
yeah.
Not remembering anything else, obviously, you know.
Probably the power of denial
Yeah,
and things
yeah.
that. But I think a part of him inside is really suffering. And
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like people who have
Just
quite
going back to the spectrum, I think I think I mentioned this book telling that it's only one emotion in the world, which is love. And the polarity of that is the lack of it. It's not just
Yes, that's right.
another stuff going the opposite of it. It's just the lack of it. Just
That's right.
as far as you can go from that point of view. And I think that's the case of some people, which can be really probably, you know, very close in aspect to the lack of guilt, the lack of remorse or whatever. But I do believe in that lack of love, because it's totally lack of love. You see, you can think the love is creative. Love is creative, love is, you know, that's the absolute lack of love.
Yes.
And I can feel that.
No, simply, some people don't know any better. You know, if you're conditioned that this is like this story about this Austrian guy years ago who was keeping two daughters in a basement, you know, and these daughters, they understood that this is the love, you know. The father comes, he comforts us, you know, the way. That was their reality, and they didn't know any better, and until the day then they found better, you know, and then we didn't hear about them anymore, but it must have not been easy for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But which I believe, you know, that part of us, Sabbir was taking his intuition. Some people got the conscious or the unconscious, you know, it's an intuition, it's one part of us that they do know, you know. But I believe this happened, maybe in personal stuff. I am an addict in recovery. I'm a drug addict, I'm an alcoholic, and I'm an overeater. In the worst part of my addictions, when it was about to kill me, and you ask me to say, I'm alright, I'm okay, it doesn't bother me, you know. And that's the denial. That was my part, which can be really very small compared to these guys, you know. But maybe it's more or less the same, you know. I knew about people drinking, you know, 3-4 bottles of whiskey and saying that it has 2 weeks to live, and kept drinking, and I say, if I want, I stop tomorrow, and I am okay, I feel okay. And they were like, you know, Parkinson and pain and head, and they were saying, I'm okay. And I
But it makes sense, because, you know...
I was saying, I'm okay, and I was dying, and I was dying of pain, and I was dying of remorse, I was dying of every negative feeling you can imagine. But something made me say, I'm alright. And probably with these guys are the same, you know, I'm okay.
Yeah, and it's the ego.
I think it's the ego and the denial.
So you like, me, I'm okay.
Are we ready to face that big pain, you know? If we're not ready, we will not face it, we will say, that's alright, you know?
Anybody got a big pain now?
Well,
You can face it.
denial can be bliss as well. They say ignorance is bliss,
Yes.
denial can be as well, you know. Deny. But
Yes.
you know, when you're in denial, you just, you know, you don't feel it.
No, you know,
Or you think that you don't feel it, you know.
that's the thing with doing spiritual work. You starts to take away your denial, and you can't sort of live with it any longer. If you know, for me, one of the things is if anyone's suffering extreme pain or something, or a frightening feeling, is I just keep repeating it. Something is observing it. You know, something observes tiredness. Something observes the fear of the loss of identity. Something observes every negative emotion. And that which observes it, there is an observer of it. You could say there's an observer that has interest in it, which suffers it. You know, oh, there is an unpleasant feeling now, and there's something watching it, but it's like suffering the feeling. But there's also an observer here, which is watching without suffering. You know, that's what Buddha talked about, enlightenment. It doesn't give any meaning to the feeling, and it just watches, and it allows that thing to go, but it's not affected by it because it doesn't, it isn't it, you know. It's not a dualistic thing. It knows that that thing is not it. Just like if I wore a red scarf and someone here hated red scarves, there has to be an observing of the person, observing it, who is getting hooked into the red scarf and is suffering the red scarf. And feelings like, you know, I'm in suffering because of the red scarf. But there is something that watches, which is not suffering it. This for me is then this then is the great thing, you know, and this then brings up the fear of, can sometimes bring up, when you speak about this, the fear of the loss of identity, you see. Or you inquire, what is the thing that suffers the thought or the feeling? You know, if you inquire, and if there is something suffering it, then is this thing that is suffering it and has a problem, is there something that is observing that which is not suffering it? You see. So, whether it be tiredness, whether it be a fear of making a noise, whether it be whatever it is, okay, something is like observing it and is being troubled by the thing. But there is something also, there is an observer that does not suffer what is going on in the present moment, is not suffering. So even if there was a person in the room who was like observing my red scarf and feeling very, very upset, you know, that Sabbir's got a red scarf on, I'd be very happy and blissed out if that red scarf wasn't in the room today, you know. So this person now is suffering my scarf. And but even if that person was to ask, to inquire within themselves, okay, there's an I, there's some observing of this scarf, and it's suffering, then look within a bit deeper. Is there an observer here that is observing the scarf, which is not interested or detached from the scarf, and is not suffering? Even the scarf still stays in the room. I'm not saying the scarf necessarily disappears, but it's like, oh, it's just watching it, and it doesn't suffer, the scarf. Once you realize that that thing that is watching the scarf is you, and can never suffer anything unless it's ascribed a significance or a meaning or a value, then suddenly the thing. So even if there's excruciating, I had this as well, you know, I was so inspired. One of the biggest things that inspired me from Hawkins was that he was allergic to anaesthetic. And so he cut his thumb off and he had to go in for surgery, and he had to tell the surgeon, I can't, you know, I'm allergic to anaesthetic, but don't worry about it, I'll just use some self-hypnosis, you know. And so he had to face a surgeon cutting his digit without any anaesthetic, and he had to rely on spiritual means. I mean, that's like, you have to be really spiritually courageous to do that, you know, major surgery with no anaesthetic, as the surgeon's like hacking your bone off. And you just have to rely on pure spirituality to deal with that. So then he knew, of course, that you have to live your spirituality now, because this is the time where you have to face am I the body? Am I this feeling? You know, am I going to make a story about this as the surgeon is like chopping my thing off with zero anesthetic? Or do you apply, or do you be the truth as that's happening? And he did it, and I knew he was saying the truth because it resonated in my soul. I can only explain it that way. I know he speaks the truth. And I followed.
You applied it yourself.
I applied it myself because I had faith.
Yeah.
You know, that I had it, so, you know, after my general anaesthetic, I did have the general anaesthetic, but then I said I would take no painkillers to deal with the pain after they'd had my kidney transplant, where they basically cut you off, you know. It's a reasonably major surgery. So the pain was coming in, and it was like, okay, I did the Lord's Prayer, but then, you know, just intuition came because I realised I was just being with the pain, and I was not going to get any sleep because it was that intense, literally like a knife in your stomach. And then this thought came in that, oh, listen to some Muji YouTube. And of course, as soon as I did, you know, what is observing the pain? What is observing the pain? And I went straight off to sleep. It disappeared. Because that which observes the pain, it has not got a problem. Once you realise that, then you see, how can you fear? Because you have to, you know, if a pain comes, something observes the pain which is not the pain. That's something which observes the pain, that is not the pain. Once you experience that, you realise that you're not a victim of pain. The pain will pass, but you will be here. What about fear? Like, oh, suddenly a fear comes, I'm going to die, my I identity is going to disappear in this moment. The I that wants to have a future and a past and to have a story happen. But something is observing all of that. Let it die. That's enlightenment. When you let the I die and you realize that you're something that cannot suffer, that's what Buddha said. If you let go of all your attachment means meaning to thoughts and stories and feelings and separation, duality. If you let all your attachments go, you will overcome all suffering of old age, death and everything, to realize the truth of who you are. Can the truth of who you die? Is the truth of who you are a thought? Is the truth of who you are a feeling of pain, or a sensation in the stomach, or some tired feeling that's just arisen? Is this the truth, or is there something which is more you that is not suffering this? You see?
I'm going to the dentist next week.
He's not going to have any of it.
No, I normally don't, but it brings me, I'm on the edge of, like,
Well,
and she was like, shall I go,
Hawkins went into bliss when they were cutting up, because you have to be like really present and like welcome it, like you said, and then it's like you're taken off by angels into heaven, into bliss. And that's what happened with one of our members from last week. Just by the affirmation, she felt no pain, as she said, God did not create pain, so it's not real. See, what creates pain is there's a sense of identity that suffers a feeling. Yeah? If there's no identity, then there's pure, it's like letting God experience the pain for you. If God can handle pain, there's no problem. But when there's a you that tries to handle pain, that can be very excruciating. But when the you is out of the way, it's like, you know, that which is not you can easily handle anything, and there's not a problem. It doesn't even experience it. In fact, God's so happy, you usually end up in bliss, and you don't even experience anything at all. Because it's like, oh, it's like God was sort of saying, I was waiting for you to get out of the way, and let me deal with it. You know, while you're, I mean, I went to the, you know, I did this. Actually, what did I do? I remember in my early days I had a dentist thing, and they asked, do you want an injection? I said, no. Because obviously I was like, I was really keen to face pain. You know, it's like, this is like, if Hawkins can do that, you know, I'm going to, you know, every instance of anyone trying to stick a needle in me or cut something off or drill me is like, oh, let's not use any anesthetic and see how good we are with it. Because I know that my spiritual connection, because it's like some people, you know, like I had this big needle, this long needle one day go into me, and I blissed out. I was almost going into heaven as they were sticking it in, because I was just 100% with it. And then it's like you're taken off into heaven when you have that faith. And so, but you know, what I would share, if it resonates with you, the truth is you cannot die. You cannot, there is something, the you know, like all kinds of thoughts, like this feeling is too much, or I'm disappearing, or this is not you. You can let it go, and it will pass. The pain will pass. The thought will pass. But you can never die. You observe it because you're observing it. You know, it's like, oh, I'm upset. There has to be. There's thinking. I'm upset because there's a pain now. You know, it's like, but the I is not you, and the I that is upset by the pain is not you. So it's the, once that happens, actually, there is no you to suffer anything, and there is no problem. Yeah.
Is that why it always puzzles me? Because you often maybe it's because I'm getting older, but when you hear about old age suffering and death.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Well, it seems that the realized people do suffer old age, suffering and death, like Nisargadatta Maharishi.
Yeah.
He had rheumatism and he had chest problems because his flat was beside a toilet.
Yes.
In India, 500 people can use that toilet. So.
Yes.
But I'm just wondering, you know, like Wayne Dyer died of a heart attack.
Yes.
And Gandhi had a lot of health problems.
Yep.
So I'm just wondering is it something else they mean by old age?
First time I experienced someone's death was my grandma. I must have been 6 or 7, and suddenly the subject of death appeared in my life, because before there was no subject of death. No one said anything. And there was such a big mess about that, and there was cry and everything, and people started to talk about death, and everyone was saying what they know about death. And I remember this moment until now, that in our living room, I'm standing there thinking, so what do they think, that you're going to disappear or what? And I was so surprised, how can they even think that you disappear? So you're going to switch off or what? That was out of the range of my understanding when I was, I think I must have been 6 or 7. So that theme stayed with me since then. I still remember the moment, totally surprised. So what do they think, that you disappear? How can you disappear, you know? So that's, then later on I got depressed and stuff like that. I lost this, so to speak, but I had a memory of that, and until today I remember that I was totally, what do they think? You know, I could not contain the thought of this switches off and the light is gone, so I could not understand.
No. You are aware that you cannot die. Yeah, that's an alien concept. That's the truth. You cannot die. You see, as soon as interest is given to the field of thought, and then identity, and then a me that can die, of course the fear of dying can. But something is observing the thinking, the identity thinking that it can die, and being afraid that it thinks it can die. Something's observing it. Something's observing everything. So whenever you face whatever it is, whatever comes up, whether it be health or any kind of feeling, or even the sense of the I dying. See, but something watches the I die. So, like Muji would say, just let it die and observe it dying. You see, then you get to enlightenment. You see, as you watch the I die, then you arrive at, oh, I cannot die, because something is watching that all the time. You see.
We have to be quite careful as well, Sabbir, because the physical body doesn't die.
Yes, it does.
It's just your essence does not die.
Yes.
So I think, it's kind of obviously, because obviously in a kind of, in the non-duality space, of course we do not die.
Yes.
But we do die.
Yes.
The physical, I think that's, the physical, essence does die.
The essence dies.
That the essence does not die, but the physical body does die.
Yes.
So, and I think we need to really, almost like, a spiritual being to accept that that's that as well.
Oh, I agree, yes. Yeah.
That's, because we cannot really see it, and say, well, we're not dying. The physical body is going to die, our essence is not going to die.
That's right.
But we are not physical body.
No, correct, yes.
You know, I had that experience looking at my hands, I don't, probably 8 weeks ago or something, when I saw my body as in a cinema, you know, and I knew that however weird it felt or whatever the experience was, I knew that this is a projection, you know,
Yes.
like I could see this really advanced way of seeing it, but I thought, you know what, this is, also when I was doing drugs years ago, I remember that my first LSD, I didn't know what is this, I didn't know what is, I was watching my hand and I was like, what is it? I was watching it here, it comes from here, I was like, what is it for? Totally, totally surprised. Where did it come from? What was the purpose, you know? Like, totally surprised. So, slowly, you know, and obviously, what you say, Dimitra, it rings the bell, but because I didn't really have the full experience, but I can see steps, you know, and each step brings another. It brings us closer, you know, and of course I wouldn't say that, oh yeah, I will never die. Actually, yeah, I cannot say that I'm not gonna die. And physical body, you know, there was this, someone said as well that even though we lay our body, we see ourselves laying our body, it's still an illusion. You know, so I just love that subject because it's good.
Do you think that the use of LSD has helped you to get to where you are now?
Sorry, what's the question?
He asked if LSD helped.
Yeah, because is it Timothy Leary?
You know what? It's a very good question. The answer is that I don't know what would happen if I took another way, so I cannot give any significance to that one. I believe that either way I would get, you know, that it's just
I've always wanted to try it, to be honest, but I was just too chicken.
I never wanted to try it, and actually it was sort of accidental, you know, and I had no preparation whatsoever, and I thought it's something. I thought you can compare it to hashish or marijuana, so I didn't expect any hit, and then I lost it, and but I don't think it was. It was quite. It's still funny because I ended up smashing on my bicycle at fruit and vegetable stand on our local market, seeing people running away and shouting and stuff like that. But I just lost the vision, so I ended up between these boxes of lettuce and tomatoes and stuff. But it's just an adventure, you know. I wouldn't really say. It's just a funny story now, you know.
Yeah. Well,
I believe that I would get when I'm going this life, you know, this moment, regardless. So otherwise, there's a significance attached to it, and I don't choose it.
I have friends who have done it all their life, but not all the time. Who do it occasionally, and they see it as terrific.
I got spiked. Someone put it in my drink.
Yeah.
And because I didn't know what was happening, and then someone said to me, "Oh, you've been spiked with LSD," and I went, "Okay." And they said, "And you're going to laugh." And because they said I'm going to laugh, I laughed for 8 hours. I laughed. You know when your stomach hurts?
Yeah.
That sort of laugh. So it wasn't funny in the end, but I couldn't stop laughing. And someone would say, "Look at the light," and I'd go, like that, or "Look at the floor," and they just thought it was hilarious, and then till it wore off, you know. But another friend of mine took one, and someone had close to her had just died, and she was in a nightclub, and she had a really bad experience where the coffin was chasing her in the nightclub. Yeah, and everywhere she went there was the coffin with her.
Yeah, a lot of people have bad road trips.
And she wasn't the same after that. So it swings and roundabouts with drugs, isn't it?
Okay, I'm going to give you my answer, which is on, can you count someone else? In a way, it's like if you hold a loving intention towards another individual, can that be helpful to them or not? And what about, are you changing their belief systems? Well, for me, it's like the ego cannot change another belief system unless there is. I'm using dualistic words, divine permission, at a level beyond that which arises out of the ego. So sometimes you can pray for people, or pray that they be relieved of something, and sometimes it seems like they believe something, and then it's relieved after a person or a group of individuals collectively pray. Now it's not, that is not, so did the person or the group of people remove the belief from another person and there was a miracle in the other person? Well, I would say that there is divine consciousness, and it so happens that divine consciousness might orchestrate, for example, around saints, people have had spontaneous remissions of their illnesses, or it's quite, you'll see that in the papers, a group of people in the church will pray for an individual with cancer, and sometimes the cancer will not be any longer in that individual. So, I mean, it's an interesting way the question is phrased, like, could you take out a belief out of someone against their will? You know, like, I have cancer and I want to keep this cancer, so don't nobody pray for me because I want to keep going on with it. But I think that's not explained easily at a level of dualism, of an ego having the power to do something. But there is you could say there is a field of love which people tap into and intuitively pray or request things. Like, for example, I shared here some time ago. Now, it was a miracle for me. My mother went to the doctor, and she's got a lot of health complaints, and her legs had become swollen, edema it's called, swollen leg. And I had this intuition just popped into my head, like, God did not create edema. God did not create edema in my mother, so it's not real. And I started to do that without telling her what I was doing. I didn't tell her that I was doing this thing. And I just said, God did not create edema, so it's not real. And within 2 days, and it's unusual because somehow she knew that I was doing, I mean, I didn't tell her, but she said, oh, Sabbir, look, my leg, the swelling is going down. And within a week, it had gone. After I did, God did not create edema in my mother. Within a week, it was gone. It was a miracle. So, if you look at it like a dualistic type of thing, like there's a me wanting to take a belief out of my mother against her will, I would say it wasn't like that. It was more like there was an intuitive connecting to something, and there were words that were repeated, and there was an intention of love behind that, and something happened. If you take it into the field of an ego trying to be God and just take things out of someone else, then no ego has that power to do that. So the way the question was phrased was very interesting. So there is divine will, and sometimes people who are intuitively connected to that say words, or things happen around their presence, or it might seem like they wanted an intention to happen in another individual, and it did. But again, we're coming. You see, what is the individual will trying to orchestrate something in the world, and what is something more connected to the field of consciousness? And what to another ego it might look like. A saint might say, "I pray that your cancer be removed." You know, and to another person it looks like a person using their will had the power to take out the cancer out of things. So you say, oh yeah, this person has the power to remove things on his will, you see. But then from another level you might see that actually that person was surrendered, and words and actions happen out of that. And it so happened that things tend to happen. But it depends what level of consciousness you observe that phenomena, and what actually happened in that phenomena is different depending on who's looking at the phenomena and what one thinks happened with that occurrence of what's seemingly like a miracle. I can switch it off if you want to reply. No, okay. With that, so that's a nice question. And
Can I?
yeah, please do. Yeah.
There was this interesting experiment, probably with different animals, but I've seen it with pigeon. Have you seen that? The caged pigeon and
Caged pigeons. Okay.
have you seen that or not?
No, I just like pigeons.
Yeah. Okay. There was a pigeon in a cage, and it was given food. Each time it would press a button or something. So it learned, okay, each time it found a button, it pressed the button, then the whatever opened, and it got its food. So it learned very quickly that it works that way. So let's press the button all the time because we can get some more food. But then the rule has changed. The rule from outside, and these people who designed this experiment, they started to do different things randomly. So pigeon learned by that. Okay, if pressing that button opens this door, then waving my wings did that, and then blinking my eye did something else, So just wanted to follow up that if we get hooked on connecting, it's very easy to get hooked on connecting. Okay, I waved my left hand, therefore the door was open, but it's just as you said, divine timing or divine circumstance in action rather than an act on our behalf.
Yes.
So that experiment came because it was so clearly showing that we should not get hooked on an act. That okay, each time I'm gonna wave my left hand, the person will be healed or something,
Yes.
So
It's like when you hear about the people with OCD and they have to wash their hands 500 times before they go out the house. Otherwise, if they go home, the front door will be open.
Hmm?
Yeah, they're using their their belief system to, if I don't wash my hands, then everything's going to go wrong.
Yeah.
I've got 400 times.
That's exaggeration. Say you have to wash your hands 5 times before you go out of the house, because if you don't, when you come back, all the taps will be on.
All right.
Everything goes wrong.
Which goes back to that attaching of meaning to things.
Mm.
Like when you were talking about your scarf.
Yes.
I had this peacock necklace.
Yes.
And my partner's aunt went, "Oh, you can't wear that. You can't wear that. Like peacocks are unlucky." So now I don't wear it because I feel really uncomfortable, almost like there's been a meaning attached to it by somebody else, but I'm so fearful that I won't wear it. But then on the other side of things, I can attach meaning to stuff which is good for me.
Yes.
Like praying and meditating every day.
Yes.
Being here right now.
Yes.
So, but then that's still attaching meaning.
Yes, the levels of consciousness. So first you have like extreme meaning to lots of thoughts, hence a very strong ego, a strong sense of identification in the fields of fear and guilt. Okay, and there's super meaning to so many things and so much suppressed feelings. And you do attach meaning to things, but they tend to be very disconnected from the source. Then as you do spiritual work, you attach meaning to things which are more in alignment with love. So, but there's still an I that needs to ascribe meaning to doing an activity which is useful. Like I need to pray to God over there so that my arthritis goes away. It's still very good. Now the ascribing of meaning is more love-based, to love-based activities, and will be more beneficial for the I that still thinks it's in separation to God and to others and has a sense of identity. And then enlightenment is then dissolving that there is an I that is separate from God, and then just the allowing. So then that's like the prayer of St. Francis. So now there is no I that's in separation to God. The I, the sense of me-ness that is in separation, has gone. So it's just it's like, for me, it's like, it's like there's detached witnessing, and there is talking, and the body is moving, and things are happening in this room, but there isn't a me, you see. The me is gone, so just something happens. you know, or something doesn't happen, or whatever is happening, but it's not even me. So, you know, it's like that pure, so we've all experienced it. You know, you've lost the sense, like you've been in the park, or you've just gone on holiday, and it's more or less like you forget there's a sense of you. It's just like presence and an expanded sense of connection and joy. And everything unfolds, or the buses arrive on time, and everything is perceived in a light of love. So that I has sort of vanished, and then just what unfolds is what is. But there isn't a sense of I-ness. So then that I-ness isn't really thinking, oh, I better pray today because I didn't pray yesterday, because now that has been dissolved at that level. So you could say there's infinite trust. It's so much trust, beyond the need for trust of an I needing to trust in something. There's just the unfolding of events and an allowing of words and actions and intuition to spontaneously orchestrate that. But there's not even an I that needs to worry about any of that. It's just, you could say it's just, you know, it's just it's spontaneously happening in the moment. Everything is spontaneously happening without the need for an I to orchestrate how the spontaneous unfolding of the moment needs to occur. So that makes it sound more complicated than what it is, but you see. So when so for me, as I dissolve the ego, it's like, oh, there is detached witnessing occurring, and yet there's, I mean, I'm not really that aware that I'm the body right now, but there is talking happening, and people are talking back, and something is witnessing all of it, and that's what's happening, you know. There's just this moment. There's nothing that needs to go into the next moment or think back on the last moment. There's just what is. Yeah? So, yes, you're quite right. As long as there's an I, like you could say there is the unenlightened I, which thinks that drinking the alcohol is the solution to life, and ascribes meaning to a glass of alcohol. It's at the bottom. Or ascribes meaning to gambling, or ascribes meaning to binge eating. And then as you are aware there's a better way, you now ascribe meaning to A Course in Miracles. And in A Course in Miracles, the last lesson is throw away the book. You know, you don't need it any longer. Because it's like, you don't need lessons. You should be at the place of all thoughts are meaningless. And the belief in the body, I'm not a body, I'm free, for I am as God created me. So the belief in the body, the belief in the thoughts. But now there's a spontaneous, intuitive awareness, which one has trust in, so that is now allowed to be.
You should have done a spoiler alert for that one.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler coming up, the last lesson is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry for anyone. You can forget. What I just said was meaningless.
Really?
Did you throw it away?
Pardon?
Did you throw it away?
No, I didn't throw it
No,
away.
you do it again.
But also
then.
it says somewhere that this is not the end, this is the beginning. I
It
think it's
probably
in
does.
the text.
Yeah.
It says that this is not the end, this is the beginning. So.
Yes.
You know,
I mean, yeah.
you mentioned meaning, and coming second time to enjoy this group, to be here with you guys, brought this thing for me that I used to tend to rely on things and people. So I thought, I don't want this group to be my support group, you know, because if I gonna project that meaning of the support group, then I'm doing this, you know, I cannot do anything anymore, or I'm gonna wait until next Saturday to share that, because, you know, and all that stuff. So that was the subject of the morning for me. And I had a really difficult morning when everything went wrong and stuff was really crazy, and I left work earlier with a big question mark whether I'm coming or not. I didn't know, and I went to sleep, and I said, if I'm going, wake me up at 1. And I was woken up 1 to 1. And I think that means that I'm going, you know. But I really had to leave it, because I didn't really want to create the meaning that, oh, I'm gonna have to run here and use you guys, you know, for that, because I've done that and it was no fun. And I let this year I let go of my previous support group, you know, when the idea was to be of support group, and which felt very, very good and secure at the beginning. But then there was that thing, you know, because if there's a support group, I am in this group, then I'm not able to do things on my own, you know, and so I was aware of that. So thanks for reminding me, and I wanted to share that. That I don't want to use you guys.
It's like the children's bike with the like 2 extra wheels. You know, when people are learning to cycle and they have like.
Oh yeah.
You took them all.
Well done.
Yeah, no, because this year I had this experience. There was this amazing teacher who really assisted me in a big way. But in June, she got cancer, and she got cancer all over her body, like big time. And I was on this coaching course, like a big time coaching course, and I thought, okay, then I'm going to be a spiritual coach, and this was my dream, you know. But then I thought, wait a minute, am I really to be that coach, you know? Because I had an awareness that maybe I just created that idea, you know. I wasn't sure, okay, is it guidance or is it just an idea, you know, because it's so easy to, okay, let's be a spiritual coach, everything is cool, but who brought me here, you know? So I questioned everything, and I thought, and the course, part of the course was in Hawaii, so I thought, now I'm gonna have to go to Hawaii and go to this classroom for 7 days from 9 to 7, and this is what I don't want to do, you know. If I'm going to Hawaii, I'm going to go to Hawaii, not like for, you know, because I had that last year, and I was like, super cool, but I'm not repeating it. So she got that cancer and all that stuff, and I'm thinking, okay, this is really cool, because I don't have to cancel, I don't have to ask for refund, because everything will happen automatically. So many people cancelled all the trip, but probably about 20 or over 20 of us did not. And we came with one idea. Surprisingly, everyone had the same idea: to let go of Rika's hand. To let go of Rika's hand. The teacher, her name was Rika.
Yeah.
So whoever came kept the date, you know, and came for holidays rather than for a coaching program. Just went there to realize that we don't want to follow anymore. You know, that yes, gratitude and everything, but the idea just got twisted, you know, in a way. So joining another group, I was like, I can feel the temptation, you know, of like, oh, let's sit on it, you know, and let's have this support. And I'm thinking, oh no, this doesn't even feel good, you know. I would love to enjoy it and to have this common experience, but I don't want to rely anymore, because I had a freeing experience 5 months ago, which was one of the best things. And everything was kind of intuitive, not. It was really funny how it unfolds. Sometimes I never know if I'm what I should do. I have no clarity whatsoever, but I still go, and there's a lot of fear involved. And but then I think, I just went there, and this happened. So I don't even know how to say that, but I go without awareness. I go without awareness because people say that, oh, like I wanted to ask today about guidance, you know?
Oh yes.
Because, okay, should I do this, should I do that? I still go, and then I think, yeah, okay, I suppose I should do that, but I never know anyway, because maybe I turned left and something else would happen, which would be equally cool, you know, so...
You know, the thing with, guidance, well, everything depends on how much spiritual work and how much you're in tune with your intuition. You see, like in the early days, it's going to be very difficult as you're doing your Course in Miracles or 12 Steps, or whatever it is, doing your lessons. It'll be very confusing. You know, should I go to the park today, or should I go to a local synagogue, or whatever it is? You know, I'm not, you know, God, I want a clear instruction right now. Is it the synagogue or is it the park? You know, it's not going to be, in the early days as you're doing the spiritual work, it'll be like, this is so difficult, you know, I don't know which one's the right action to do. So what I'd say in the early days is doing your spiritual work. You just have to trust and try and make the best choice you can of what the options are, and you keep doing your spiritual work, and later on you start to develop an intuition which starts simply saying, I'm feeling a little bit stronger for some reason that I should be going to the synagogue. And if you keep, and then as this intuition builds, you tend to find, and you find that it tends to be right more often, and then there's a slightly different energetic feel to to the other one, like let's go and sit in the park. So for each individual, how spiritual intuition comes is slightly different. Some have more of a gut feeling, some have more of an auditory thing, or a feeling of balance in their body, or for some. I remember once, I've had like phases where I've had really kinds of bizarre spiritual experiences. I was working, so it can happen in different ways. Like I was knocking on doors for a charity, and I would look down the street and the street would light up, and all the other streets would seem dark. And I'd always go down that street and somebody would be in that street who wanted to take out a direct debit from the charity. And it was just going on. So I had those kind of bizarre, like these, it's like you're given, and it's right. So that at that point, it was clear. Now, it's like as you do the spiritual work, it becomes like more obvious, like what you should do. Should I forgive this person, or should I like hold on to the resentment? It's like you don't have to think about it. It's like, oh, or eventually these spiritual things just become happening in the background. It's like you're automatically trying to forgive or let go of resentments, or just be in the witnesser and dissolve things. But there is a phase where you're adjusting and trying to tune in to how your guidance comes forward. Is it like a gut intuition, or is it more like a strong sensation that it's more this one than that? Otherwise, Hawkins did kinesiology or muscle testing, and so sometimes that works for me. It's like, so in the interests of probably won't work now. In the interests of the highest good, should I have 20 bars of chocolate now? Or in the interest of the highest, should I have an organic apple? Usually when you're connected, the one that makes you strong is good for you. And the one that goes weak. So that's another way of checking it out.
Can you do it on yourself, or someone else has to?
You can. Apparently, you can do it.
You can do it with the ring finger.
Mm-hmm.
You try.
Say if coffee's bad.
I've got a question actually.
See, so what you do is first you check the calibration. You can either do it this way, or you can pull a finger, and you do a calibration of an answer is totally right and one that's totally wrong. So you could like hold an image of Jesus Christ and Adolf Hitler, and pull as you hold. You can try it now. Do you want to in your mind's eye, make a strong picture of Jesus Christ, if that's, or any divine figure that you feel good, and then say resist and pull your finger open.
I don't understand that.
Pardon?
I don't understand.
Oh.
So okay.
You hold the picture in your head of a divine figure very strongly,
right.
And then you say the word resist,
okay.
And then pull the finger as you're holding the picture of divine figure of Jesus Christ. Okay, try and pull it apart with your and try and pull it apart. Okay, have you done that? Were you trying to pull your fingers apart?
Yeah.
Okay. Now do exactly the same thing, but I want you to make a very clear, vivid picture of Adolf Hitler in your mind. And as you do it, try and pull your fingers open with your muscle strength. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Now, if you're connected properly, then you'll find that it'll be much more difficult to pull apart your fingers while holding the divine figure strongly. Mm. And when you're holding something which is clearly negative in consciousness, it should be very weak. Now you know that you're what I'd call you're connected. You're spiritually connected. Now you can try it. Another good one is your name. Like, for example, my name is Sabbir and my name is Joanna. You see, my name is Joanna. I mean, you see, luckily my brain doesn't believe I'm Joanna yet. So now you know you've checked it out to make sure you're not disconnected.
Right.
If you're connected, now you go, should I get a job in that investment bank? You know, should I get a job in that? Oh, and it seems to be like no. Your body's sort of, it's like you're connected to the universe. It goes, oh, I'm going really weak. I should say no. So once you know you're connected, that
I've got my answer. Yeah.
Your answer.
Yeah, because it's about a job, you know. I've got amazing. Anyway, not a big story, but as I said before, everything says no, and even I've got this dialogue going in my head ongoingly. I've noticed that there's always an answer, and the answer is always no.
Yes.
Or negative, or frightening, you know, or something like that. Even then, I do certain things, and then they appear to be good outcomes.
Yes.
But I kind of go against, and I was wondering how to, because it's like I'm going against something, really, you know, against a big, what do you call it, resistance. And I got someone offered me a really cool thing recently, and I thought, yeah, this sounds so easy and so light and so the way I was actually asking, because I'm really simplistic, so I like things, well, in a way very simple, and this really ticked all the boxes. But then all the doubt, you know, and everything, I'm like, oh my god, you know, what do I to tell to this person, because I don't want to get them, I don't want to think that I will be there for them if it's not for me, you know.
Yes.
This is another being, and I don't want to say yes, 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 and in 3 weeks say no, no, no. But it showed me quite
strong, yeah.
Quite strong.
You can check it after a week. It can actually change, you know. Sometimes you can start things. Should I start this job? And it comes out strong and you do it. Why? Because people can change, you know.
Yeah.
One day a manager is going, or a company boss is thinking, I want to be integrous and give out a good service. And then, you know, in 3 weeks' time, suddenly he thinks it's good to rip customers off. Mm-hmm. So you go, and it comes out, yeah, it's a good company, and you go there. But and then you might try 3 weeks later, and then we try again. It goes no. You know, and you go. It wasn't that the first one was wrong. It doesn't necessarily mean the first one was wrong, but you can keep checking, because you know people can, you know, like someone, if you met an alcoholic before they went into recovery, spiritual recovery, you might get no, but if they got in, like a year later, you may find that it's a yes, because they're now in integrity and spiritually aligned. So you can always keep checking, and sometimes it can change with the checking as well.